Hey, Shalom, Shalom, call halal, Yahawah, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, BAHASHAM, QADASH. That's giving all praise to the Most High. In the name of His only begotten Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to our teachers, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful lake scattered abroad. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 66, verse 5. It says, "Come and see the works of the Most High. He is terrible in His doing toward the children of men." And in this video, you see this individual. And Salakia bits on Instagram. I kind of, I wanted to get the comments as well, so I didn't take it off of Instagram. I might take it off later, but just for edification's sake, now I'm gonna leave it on there so I can read some of the comments too. But you see this figure in his doorway. All right, this guy who appears to be an Edomite is getting plagued, okay, by this spirit. All right, it says, and you can see the look and the fear on his face. Okay. It says, "A man living in the Appalachian Mountains records a demonic figure in his doorway at 2 a.m. Okay, a man living in the Appalachian Mountains records a demonic figure in his doorway at 2 a.m. And you see him, he's like shaking, he's terrified. Okay, can you imagine seeing something like that standing in your doorway at 2 a.m.? Me personally, I just closed my door, but that's terrifying. Okay, look at him, he's freaking out. Okay. And the worst thing that can happen, when this happens to you, the worst thing that can happen is you not know the names of Yahweh, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi. Okay. And I always go into these lessons, saying that as we get closer to the end, these demons are going to manifest more and more. Okay. And they're going to plague you wicked people out there that have not sought Yahweh, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, or can't seek Yahweh, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi. You're going to be given over to these demonic spirits. All right. Look at that. Okay, you just say it was just standing there watching, but you heard whispering. Okay, I heard whispering. It sounded like it was whispering to him, you know. And I've heard many stories about this. They call it the man in the black hat, or these different spirits that people be seeing, and they'll see a guy with a black hat. All right, just like that. All right, so that's terrifying. But that right there is why Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is to be feared, greatly to be feared, man. Because once the Lord got it out for you, there's nobody that can save you. Okay? And if he didn't get it on camera, nobody would have believed him. But yeah, you seeing stuff like this happen all over, the world. People are getting plagued with spirits. All right, I got a few more videos I want to show concerning this. But let's bring the scripture back. This is Psalms chapter 66, verse 5. "Come and see the works of the Most High. He is terrible in his doing toward the children of men." You're right, the Lord is terrible. Okay, he is greatly to be feared. Allah Shagia, which when you go into it, it's like pretty much a horrible demon power. Okay, the Most High, he controls the left hand side and the right hand side. Okay, so he controls the angels, but he also controls the demons. Okay, and he will set it up where a demon will come and plague you. Okay, you see them all. You remember seeing those old paranormal activity movies? A motherfucker getting thrown across, thrown down the stairs, thrown across the room. And those movies were, it was acting, but this stuff actually happens. Okay, you got people that wake up with bruises and bites on them and scratch marks. That's because them demons be whooping your ass in the middle of the night. Okay, and this is why we gotta serve and fear Yahawah, Yahawashi, who you ignorantly call God and Jesus. You gotta truly serve and fear the Lord. Or the Lord give you over to this stuff. Let's play some. Let's let it play some more. It says, as you see, things just standing there. All right. Like I said, I got a few more clips I want to show, but let's read some comments. It says, now some of these are kind of funny. Somebody said, "Jump out of bed and sprint towards him full speed with your willy out and teach him who's the man of the house here." All right. So yeah, people, if people, take this stuff for a joke, it says he's just standing there menacingly. All right. "Reject any negative energy or spirits it's from this video." Yeah, so they say, yeah, these are all folly. These are some folly comments. So lucky for even bringing these up. But it shows you the spirit of these people, bro. Okay, they're very simple. They're all, it's all a joke. It's all a game until it's you. All right, and you see him. He's shaking. The phone is shaking because he's afraid. All right, let's go and get another one. This is my story on Instagram. I did this video. I did this video um maybe a few years ago. All right, but this is just another one. It says a mysterious humanoid figure was recorded chasing a car at high speed. I'll play some audio.
Bro, no, he's too fast, bro. What?
You see? So if you could see in the spirit world, you would see this all day long, because you constantly got demons. You know, we live in a very satanic world, so there's demons all around us that want to jump on you, that want to beat your ass, that want to make you sick. Anytime you have a negative thought, this is something I learned, prior to coming to the truth, man. Anytime you have a negative thought, or a spirit of doubt or anything like that come upon you, that's a spirit. A demonic spirit planted that thought inside your head. It's like the old cartoon shows where they have a demon on, the left shoulder and an angel on the right shoulder, and that's what we battle here in this flesh. Okay, so that's one.
Hey, bro.
I'm at
Global in China.
These are all videos that I wanna touch on today. Some of these videos, so Lord, I can get through them all today. But let's see.
Lorelei, come
Here's
here.
another one.
Lorelei, who are you playing with? What are you doing?
And let me say this too: kids are very, the kids are a lot more spiritual. So they see a lot of stuff. And when they see these things, they might, say something, or they may think, they have an imaginary friend, but really they're seeing spirits. All right, and there's no such thing as ghosts; these are spirits. But a spirit, a demon, can camouflage itself to look like a little girl or a child, or your grandma that passed away. So the point is, you got to be mindful of the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is real, okay? The spiritual realm is very real. All right, there's a lot more going on than what meets the eye, okay? And everything happens in the spiritual world before it happens in the physical world. Let's play this video back. It's very creepy.
Lorelei. Lorelei, who are you playing with? What are you doing?
What?
3 a.m. and around that time is called the witching hours. Okay, you don't want to be out in the middle of the night around that time. You shouldn't be, just roaming about around that time, because that's when the spirits are out and they're really, manifested around that time.
Amy? 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 He's not catching ball with you? Do you need someone to play ball?
Lorelei, come here.
Now, the reason why these things happen is because people, either knowingly or unknowingly, are playing with demons, okay? Whatever religion that you might be in, you don't realize it, but that's a demon you worship and you reverencing. People are playing with these Ouija boards. I got the next video going to show you a girl's playing with a Ouija board, and not her, she got spirits in her house. Okay, certain movies you watch too, it invites spirits into your home. So you got to be very mindful, and I'm grateful that my mom, she was always very superstitious, sometimes, more than she should be. But you got to be that way. You got to be that way. She didn't like us watching certain shows or, certain movies. She didn't let us watch certain movies, and that covered and protected us. Because if you just simple and you just, an open vessel, and just open to anything, you're opening yourself unto demonic spirits. These kids be possessed, bugging the hell out. You see them movies, the little kids that get possessed and start doing crazy stuff around the house, and you're like, what the hell going on? This is a reality, man. Okay, but people don't acknowledge the spirituality in Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. Okay, they don't acknowledge that. Okay, and because of that, you're gonna find yourselves in a lot of scary situations. Let's see what else we got. I think I got another one. Yep, here we go. I think it's the last one. But it says a girl played a Ouija board with her friends at her house, and now an entity is following her. You see, so an Ouija board is like a demonic board game, basically. I remember when I went to Mexico. And they had like a lot of the souvenirs and trinkets and shit. A lot of it was it had some demonic vibrations on it. All right, so anything that I brought back from that trip, I made sure I prayed over it before it came in my house. If I brought it in my house, I made sure I prayed over it. And that's something that you got to get in the habit of doing, praying over your house, praying over anything that comes in your house, making sure that certain people don't come in your house. Okay, you can't just let anybody in your house. You don't want to, people got demons on them, got spirits on them. Okay, and that stuff will leech onto you. All right, and these demons, they know who we are. They know who we are, bro. I've had so many spiritual encounters with spirits, even prior to coming into the truth. And these demons, I'm just say like this, they know who we are. Okay, the demons, for whatever reason, they knew that I would be doing what I'm doing now before I knew I was going to be doing what I'm doing now. Okay, and they tried to stop it. They tried to stop it. I've been in a lot of near-death experiences, and it was only by the grace of God that I made it out. Okay, so it's all through the spirit, But first of all, you have to understand the spirit. Let's play this. I see.
I think I'm stuck.
Look at that. Walmart employee opens fire on co-workers. Why? Because he got demons. People got demons on them. Okay, they got demons on them, man. What make you go to your job and open fire on your coworkers? Spirits. All right, demonic beings. Let's play it. Yeah. Okay. So these are some many examples of demonic spirits. It says somebody said a Ouija board isn't a toy. Okay. Yeah. And that shows you the spirit of these people, bro. It's like they're making people make a joke out of everything. Everything is a joke with these people until all hell really break loose. And the Lord's about to unleash these spirits. So let's grab some precepts, just going into this point, because we are definitely in a time of great death and destruction. And these demons, these spirits are going to start really amping up. All right, let me see. Let's go. Wow, look at this. I didn't even see this yet. Let me save this too. All right, so lucky. Let's go back. All right. Let me go back right here. Let's do this one. Okay. And it says, always believe your kids. I thought this one was really creepy because you see the figures in the back. Okay. So let's grab a few precepts. This is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11. It says, put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Okay. And the devil comes in many different ways. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So it's demons. Okay. The darkness of this world. It says, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day. And the evil days are coming where it's going to get really bad. It says, and having done all to stand. It says, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench the fiery darts of the wicked. So you got to believe in YAHAWASHI. It says, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Right. So these are important things that we must do, and that's why, like I said earlier, you got to pray. You got to constantly be in prayer, man. All right. Don't ever think it's corny to pray. Always be in prayer. Scripture says, how's it go? That's the tip of my tongue, man. I hate when that happens. I mean, Lord, when I can grab it. So like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll just have to grab it. It's probably in the same book. But let's read this in the NLT real quick. Okay, and I'll try to go grab that. It says Ephesians chapter 5, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11 in the NLT. Put on all of the Most High's armor, so you will be able to stand firm against the strategies of the devil. It says, for we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies. So this ain't you're not fighting against flesh and blood. And even if somebody is coming at you, I remember it was a video of a guy, we was at camp, and this guy came up. He had some, bulging eyeballs, but he was all in the video. He had a shirt that said, "Not today, Satan," or "I got time today, Satan," or some shit like that. But he was in the video being a complete demon. He was all in our face, trying to antagonize us. And I said, this guy got spirits on him. He said, yeah, I got demons on me, man. I got demons on me. He admitted it. Okay. But the point I'm making when I say that is that you might, come into a confrontation with somebody, but it's not the actual person. It's the spirits that's on the person. Sometimes your damn woman might start acting crazy, and, they'll give you like a look. And you're like, damn, you got demons on you, This is why it's important to, always pray and fast. Okay. Because any of us, demons, try to jump on all of us. All right, and you don't want to be in that state of mind where you're not in your right state of mind. It says on verse 12, for we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world. Okay, and authorities of the unseen world. And there's this thing called legion, which is a lot of demons. Okay, I remember when I went into this before, but I remember I seen Legion. I ain't gonna say how I went about seeing it because I don't know nobody to copy it, but you can open up your third eye, which is your pineal gland, to the point where you can see these spirits. There's certain ways to do it. I'm not gonna tell you how to do it, okay? But there's certain ways to do it, and this is before I came into the truth, and this is what really, made me really come into the truth and take this seriously, because I said, wait a minute, man, if this is real, the Lord and if the demons are real, the Lord and the angels are definitely real, okay? But you can open your mind up to these spirits, and a lot of people don't come back, from that stuff, man. But I seen Legion, and it was like a hierarchy it's pretty much like a hierarchy of demons. You had the lower level demons, and they resembled, the best way I can say it, they resembled, like you had one that resembled the Joker. He was just laughing, and it looked like he had like the Joker face. You had ones that looked like, the gray aliens. You had ones that looked like Spider-Man. You had ones that looked like Venom. Okay, all these characters they put on TV, those are actually inspired by demonic spirits. Okay, just like the first video I showed you, with a guy who had a demon sitting in a doorway. That looked like you remember that movie Saw? Okay, I forgot what they called the demon, but the Jigsaw or some shit like that. All right, but it looked like that, you know. So they, in these movies and these shows, well, I say you gotta be careful with movies and shows you watch or allow your children to watch, because there's spirits that come on that stuff. That, you know, even the music, you know they have a casting room in these record labels where before they release the music, they cast spells upon the music. You don't think they're doing that to the movies as well? Yeah. Okay. So it says, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in in the heavenly places. Right. So you got evil spirits out here. Okay. Evil spirits out here, and you know if they get opportunity, they'll jump on you and go, and cause you to act crazy. Which I'm gonna grab a few accounts as well. Let me get that scripture I just said first though. Pray without ceasing. I believe that's what it was. Okay. Got to constantly be in prayer, especially in these last days. Yep. First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 17. Pray without ceasing. So constantly be in prayer. You wake up in the morning, pray. Before you eat, pray. After you eat, pray. When you, when you getting in your car, pray. When you getting out of the car, pray. You come into the house, pray. You leaving the house, pray. You go to bed, pray. Okay, constantly be in prayer all day, every day. That's something that you got to constantly, have on your spirit. All right, let me see. Let's grab a few. Let's grab a few. This is the book of Luke, chapter. I have a few accounts. It says Luke chapter 8, verse let me just get the whole point. It says this is Luke chapter 8 verse 25, and he said unto them, where is your faith? And they being afraid wondered, saying one to another, what manner of man is this? For he, well, let me go up on this too, because and it's like, bear with me. I'm just going according to the Spirit. Spirit want me to bring this out. It says Luke chapter 8 verse let's go to verse 22. It says, and now it came to pass on a certain day that he went into a ship with his disciples. Talking about YAHAWASHI and the disciples, it says, and he said unto them, let us go over unto the other side of the lake. And they launched forth. It says, but as they sailed, he fell asleep. YAHAWASHI fell asleep, and there came down a storm of wind on the lake. Which, when you're dealing with, particular storms and stuff, I went into the other day. I saw a video of a tornado, and you had literal chariots within the tornado, fueling the tornado. Okay, so when you deal with these different storms and stuff, that those are spirits as well. Okay, remember we had a hurricane down here a few years ago, and it was the lights had went out. But when you open the door, you heard, ooh, it was like a spirit, inside that wind that made it kick up like that. It was knocking down trees and light poles and all kind of stuff. All right. But it says, Slovakia. I lost my place. Let me go back up because there's a lot of this I want to grab. But it says, in verse 23, but as they sailed, he fell asleep, and there came down a storm of wind on the lake, and they were filled with water, and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. Then he arose and rebuked the wind. YAHAWASHI said he rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. So the Lord literally rebuked the winds and the raging water. And why did he rebuke it? Because it was really just a spirit on it. All right, it was all spirits. It's spiritual. This thing is spiritual, man. And most people say, "Oh, that's that spooky stuff." That's what guys say. But no, it's spiritual stuff. If you can't understand that, then you can't understand nothing. It says, and he said unto them, where is your faith? And they being afraid wondered, saying to one to another, what manner of man is this? For he commanded even the winds and water, and they obey him. And we're going to have this power, you know. Really, we already have it. I remember one time, it's a few times, we'll go to camp, and it'll look like it's about to rain, or whatever, or the wind will be blowing like crazy. Like the other day at camp, the wind was going crazy, and I'll just put up a quick prayer. I won't tell nobody, but I'll put up a quick prayer. There's been times where I put up a quick prayer where I see a huge storm cloud coming, and I say, Lord, just Baba Kasha, block the storm, or stop this, make sure the storm don't come this way, so we can, continue to do your work. And I done forgot about it. For we done got through the whole lesson, 2-3 hours of the camp, and not get rained on once. Okay, so that's the power that we have in YAHAWASHI YAHAWASHI. It says, and they arrived at the country of the Gadarenes, which is over against Galilee. It says, and when he went forth to the land, there met him out of the city a certain man which had devils a long time. It says, and wear no clothes. This guy was butt ass naked. Neither abode in any house, but in the tomb. So why was he in the tomb? Because he had spirits on him. He was over there by the dead bodies. They say don't go to a grave site because the spirits over there. Okay, it says, when he saw Yahawashi, he cried out and fell down before him. And with a loud voice said, what have I to do with thee, Yahawashi, thou son of the Most High, of Yahweh the Most High? I beseech thee, torment me not. So why did he fall down and say that to Yahawashi? It wasn't him speaking. It was a spirit. It was a demon that was speaking through him. Okay, it says, when he saw Yahawashi, he cried out and fell. Yep, I read that. It's in verse 29. And he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for oftentimes it had caught him, and he was kept bound with chains and in fetters, and he brake the bands and was driven out, and was driven of the devil into the wilderness. Right. So you have these particular demonic spirits that come on people, and they get super strength. Just no different than when the Holy Spirit come upon the man, they get power. Well, an individual that has demons on them, they get like super strong. That's why you'll see like a little girl that's possessed. She might toss a full grown man across the room. That's because that's the spirit. That's on her. It says, and Yahawashi asked him, saying, what is thy name? He's speaking to the demon. And he said, Legion, because many devils were entered into him. So yeah, he had many spirits within him. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep, right? Because them demons, they want to possess and inhabit a body. It says, and there was there an herd of many swine feeding on the mountain, and they besought him that he would suffer them to enter into them, and he suffered them. And then went the devils out of the man and entered into the swine, pigs. It says, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the lake and were choked. Then when they had that's the point. It says, when they had fled, it's like when they that fed them saw what was done, they fled and went and told it to the city and into the country. That's the point. So like it's a little choppy. I never really read it in this. I remember reading it somewhere else. I didn't really read it in Luke, but it's the same account, where and why did those pigs, pretty much jump off the cliff? Because they knew they had demons on them. Okay, they knew they had spirits on them. All right, so even the animals know. The animals can tell when something is demonically possessed. Okay, or animals can they can sense spirits. I got one more account real quick, and I'm gonna finish up the last precepts I got. But I want to go into the vagabond. Going to those vagabond Jews. Okay. Let's see. Yep. This is Acts chapter 19, verse 13. It says, Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits the name of the Lord Yahawashi, saying, We adjure you by Yahawashi, whom Paul preacheth. So these were men that were traveling, and called themselves doing the work of the Lord. All right. But they wasn't, they was pretty much just, doing their own thing. They didn't come up under an order, but they knew about Yahawashi, who Paul preached, right? And it shows you that you really got to be on a level. You can't just go out there, thinking that you a man of the Lord. You got to be on a level. Let's go up a little bit. It says, verse 11, and the Most High wrought special miracles by the hands of Paul, so that from his body were brought into the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the disease departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them. And that shows you too that, when you go into diseases and stuff, ailments, it's really spirits. It's just demonic spirits. So spiritually you got to cast some spirits off, man. Another thing that people are finding out too, that a lot of these different issues in your body, whether it be a particular disease or something, it's really parasites. All right, which parasites are basically nothing but demons. Okay, parasites are demons, and they look like demons. But it says, Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits in the name of the Lord Yahawashi, saying, We adjure you by Yahawashi, whom Paul preacheth. And there were 7 sons. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Yahawashi I know, and Paul I know, but who are you? So these demons, they know who the men of the Lord are. And if you're not a man of the Lord, they're going to say, nigga, who is you? Who you think you is? I think you can cast me out. Who you think you is? I think you can just tell me what to do. And this is how they'll react. And I know a guy, man. I know a guy right now who I was dealing with. I ain't dealing with nigga no more. But I was dealing with the Jake, trying to get him, on the right path. Jake took the truth and tried to do his own thing with it. But he told me how, oh man, some crazy happened today. I was sleeping and I woke up in this abandoned building, and somehow I got in the building and the door was locked and the police was there. I said, nigga, you crazy, boy. You got demons on you. You got demons on you. Okay, you got demons on you. And I told his ass, I said, hey, bro, if the police already getting involved in shit, they gonna put you in a crazy home. Okay, but you think that you on some spiritual mission from the Most High, really you got spirits on you. This is why when you come into the truth, or you find out this truth, you gotta, hold, you basically gotta, as the beloved brother Kwame always say, stay in the house. You gonna have to, and you gonna need help. All right, but you gotta be amongst the true spirit. The Akim. Scripture says, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am in the midst thereof. When you try to go off on some Batman shit and do your own little you'll be able to get your ass whooped. Okay, spiritually. It says, and that's why guys bug out, all right, lose their minds and go crazy. A lot of these people that you see on the side of the street, they got demons on them. Talking to themselves, and, ain't bathed in 3 years. They got spirits on them. And that's why they can't get right. It says, and the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them and overcame them and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. Right, the demons jumped on them. Okay, the dudes had demons on them. They just jumped on them and started whooping their ass. Pulling their clothes off, stripped them. And they ran out of the house naked and wounded. It says, and this was known to all the Jews and the Greeks also dwelling in Ephesus, and fear fell on them all, and the name of the Lord Yahawashi was magnified. You see? So, yeah, when these things, begin to amp up and these spirits start showing out, people gonna want answers. That they gonna want to know what's going on. And then guess what? The men of the Lord are gonna be there to to rebuke these spirits. All right, but that's the point. All right, let me go over here too. I got a few more over here. Let's do this. It says Psalm chapter 96, verse verse 4. It says, "For the Lord Yahweh is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods." So you got to come to the true God of the Bible. Scripture says there are gods many and lords many. So you got to come to the true God or the true Lord of the Bible. It says for all the gods of the nations are idols, but Yahweh made the heavens. Okay, so these other nations, they're dealing with idols. They're dealing with false gods, and really you can call them demons. It says verse 4, "Great is the Lord YAHAWASHI. He is most worthy to be praised." So like the most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods. The powers of other nations, the gods of other nations are mere idols, but yet Yahweh made the heavens. You see? So yeah, there's only one God. Everything else is hoopla. Okay, as they say. Let's go right here. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17, verse 3. It says, "For while they suppose to let me go up to verse 1. It says, For great are thy judgments, and the Lord is known in his judgments." It says, "And cannot be expressed. Therefore unnurtured souls have erred. For when unrighteous man thought to oppress the holy nation," which when we was going into when we was in the land of Egypt. It says, "They being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness and fetters with the bonds of a long night." Salakia. Lay their exile from the eternal providence. It says, "For while they supposed to lie hid in their secret sins, they were shattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, being horribly astonished." It was bugged out. The Lord put them in a whole different realm. It's a good movie to watch. I'm gonna tell you about this movie. The brothers put me onto it. I watched it, and they just came out with a part 2, but it's called Smile. Okay, it's called Smile. And long story short, it's pretty much a spirit. They show you in the end of the second one what the spirit looked like. What they were seeing, but it was a couldn't put into words with this spirit, man. All right, but in this movie, it was about this spirit, and whoever the spirit had, like what was plaguing, it will make them see people smiling. Like every time they seen somebody, they was smiling, but the person wasn't really smiling. They was just seeing stuff, and it was in a whole nother realm. Okay, so the Lord can do that. He can put your ass in a whole nother. It says, "Being horribly astonished and troubled with strange apparitions." Now, when you go into this word for apparitions, let's grab it in the Edom Online. Okay, it says apparition. It says supernatural appearance or manifestation. So when you see a demon, that's a supernatural appearance or manifestation. Like an example, the first guy when that spirit was sitting in his doorway, that was a supernatural manifestation. It was just sitting there watching him. Another good show to watch is what is it called? I think it's called Fear. Is it called Fear? You got the Luke Cage guy in it. All right, Luke Cage guy in the ball, Jake. Pretty much they was pretty much like working with the Catholic Church and deal with spirits as well. Okay, that's another good show to watch. I believe it's called Fear. Something along those lines. It's like a one-word title. If you brothers know what I'm talking about, you can put it in the comment board. I believe it's called Fear, though, if I'm not mistaken. It says It says the meaning, and they put ghost. Okay, which there's no such thing as ghosts. These are all just spirits. All right, but what they call ghosts. All right, those are spirits. It says, for neither might the corner that held them, they was hiding in a corner, keep them from fear. But noises as of water falling down sounded about them, and sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances. So they was hearing drip, 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 and they show you that in like these shows and these movies. You know, you be hearing stuff. You'll hear water dripping, but you go to the sink and nothing. There's no water dripping. Okay, that's when you piss the Lord off. He'll seek the whole spiritual realm on you. It says, and sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances. See, so they said they were seeing sad visions. You know, scary stuff. Let's grab this in G&T and we'll close out. All right. This is the G&T, the Good News Translation. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17. Let's go to verse 1. It says, it's titled, Terror Strikes the Egyptians at Night. It says, verse 17, O Lord, your acts of judgment are marvelous and hard to explain. Yeah, certain stuff you can't explain. Like I said, if that guy didn't have that on video, nobody would have believed him. It says that is why people who had not been taught about them went astray. It says, when lawless people imagined that they had your holy nation in their power, because we was in captivity to the Egyptians, and you know, they were definitely lawless. It says, they were themselves imprisoned in a long night of darkness. And Lord, he can have it get so dark where you can't see nothing. You can't see, a flashlight in front of your face. Okay, it's that thick darkness. It says, they lay in their own houses, shut off from your eternal care. It says, they thought that their sins, they had been secret and unnoticed, shielded from view by a dark curtain of forgetfulness. But now they were horribly afraid, confused, and terrified by ghostly forms. So the Lord was causing them to have anxiety. They they was tripping, bugging out, seeing stuff, and they was terrified by ghostly forms. They were seeing demons, okay, spirits. So all those videos I showed you, that collection of videos I showed you of people seeing stuff, whether it be spirits or figures, which really is all spirits. Hey, that's the Most High doing that. He's the one that allows that. Okay, these spirits don't just do what they want to do. The Lord sanctions them and sends them out to do His will, His bidding. And in a way, all those videos that we saw, it led up to this right here. Okay, it led up to me going into this and doing a video about it. So it all happens for a reason. It says, not even the dark corners where they lay could protect them from fear. They were surrounded by horrible noises. Grim ghosts with gloomy faces appeared before their eyes. You hear this? Grim ghosts with gloomy faces appeared before their eyes. And that's why you seen that guy, he was in his bed shaking, the phone was shaking because his hand was shaking. He was so afraid. And you had that figure standing out there with, I did a video about this like this maybe a year ago, and it was the same shit. It was a sweet looking dude. Look, he appeared to be an Edomite. He was closing up a store, and he said he seen a demon, and he pretty much ran out of the store or the restaurant, and as he ran, you seen the demon, behind him. And it was like a very grim face, It says, no fire had power to give them light, and the brilliant stars could do nothing to relieve that deathly darkness. There was only a dreadful fire lit by no human hand that shone on them, and in their terror they believed that the real world was even worse than the things they imagined. The illusions produced by their magic tricks were put to shame, and all the wisdom they had boasted of came to nothing. And actually, people out here, you gonna think that your false gods and your witchcraft and your sorcery is gonna save you, but it's not. Okay, it's not gonna save you, and eventually you're gonna perish just like the rest of them. It says they had claimed they could drive away all the fears and illnesses of sick minds, but now they themselves were sick with silly, groundless fears. Even though nothing dangerous had actually happened, they were terrified by hissing snakes and animals advancing on them, and they died shaking with fear, afraid to open their eyes, yet unable to keep them shut. Wow. So the Lord, he'll really do you bad, man. And people that you can get so afraid where you can have a heart attack. You can die from fear. It says wickedness is cowardly in itself and stands self-condemned. Someone with a guilty conscience will always imagine things to be worse than they really are. Fear is nothing but the failure to use the help that reason gives. When you lack the confidence to rely on reason, you give in to the fears caused by ignorance. Ooh. Yeah, that's heavy in the G&T. All right, that's heavy. But you get the picture. Our praise lessons have been edifying to the hopeful elect. Double honors to our teachers, the elders, and apostles who taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and salutation to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Shalom.